And I believe we have Mr. Dabrowski available remotely.
All right. Well, thank you all for allowing me to speak on a critical issue. I'm going to share a few slides if I may. Here they go. And I will do my best to be brief because I'm going to try to let the data do the talking rather than provide examples. I think there's three things I'd like to make sure I leave you thinking about. Is I still believe that our political leadership has yet to acknowledge the depth of this problem with the property taxes, and so therefore, until we acknowledge that depth, it's going to be hard to get the right reforms in place. Which means that incremental reforms, I think, will be very difficult. It won't make a big difference, and we'll only solve these problems when we get to the real drivers, the cost drivers of why Illinois is so expensive. But let me just take you through a few slides here. Number one, this is a problem that's been in the making for quite some time. At Wirepoints, we've put together data here. None of the numbers are crunched by us. This is pure data coming from either the federal government or the state government. But what we've seen is residential property taxes per household spike up relative to median household incomes. And this is why it's become so problematic, because people just can't afford their property taxes anymore. This has been 30 years in the making. And the way it's now manifested itself is that we have the highest property taxes in the country. This is from Adam Data Solutions. They track real estate data across the country. We are the extreme outlier in the country. And our neighbors are in blue. These rates are the effective property tax rates, or the property tax bill as a percentage of home value on average. We are the extreme, and you can see why people are moving to our neighboring states, because it is much cheaper there. It plays out, it's not just some state number. This is a number that's playing out in cities across the state. When you take the Adam data and they take the metro areas nationally, of the 10 highest metro areas in terms of property taxes, we have 5 of them. And what's interesting about them is, you'll see a lot of our challenged cities, Rockford, Peoria, Springfield, Chicago, they have some of the highest property taxes in the country, which is, of course, punitive. And it's not just the personal income tax, property tax rates, it's also the commercial property tax rates. Lincoln Institute of Land Policy does a great study every year, a great survey. Guess who's number one? Chicago. Of the biggest cities in each state, we have the highest rate. Again, punitive. How does this all play out? Highest property taxes are greatly correlated with the worst home value growth in the country. If you take the last 22 years, going back to 2000, and you look at home values adjusted for inflation, Illinois falls dead last. You can see we've had a 13% growth adjusted for inflation in 22 years in home values. Compare that to our neighboring states, they've done a little bit better. And you can look on the far right of the chart, which are other states, Idaho being the big winner, 140% increase. So we are paying the price, and this is people's nest eggs. Home values are people's nest eggs, and we are destroying nest eggs. Of course, a big part of that is driven by we have the most units of local government. Look, people don't mind high taxes if you get good value, but if you have too much government, too many units of government, too much bloat, too much fat, it becomes really expensive. And then not only that, in Illinois, the biggest chunk of our property taxes go to education. And at Wirepoints, we've been pointing this out in great detail. Our kids can't read across the country, across the state. If we're going to be spending that much money on property taxes, then we better have every one of our kids being great students. And that doesn't show up in the numbers, where you can see Waukegan, just 13% of kids can read at grade level. Peoria, it's 15%. Decatur, it's 8%. This is, of course, we're not getting our value for the property taxes. Most important, a big driver, there's a lot of reasons why people leave states. But if you look at the population from 2010, which is let's take the latest decade and the last 3 years, there's one state that stands out amongst all of them. I know some people are going to say, wait a minute, didn't the census say they made some mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. Even if we grant that mistake, which would be about 250,000 people, we would still be the state on the far left, worst in the country. Property taxes have a big, big part of that. Just last comment I want to make on data. We can't think that we can just shift taxes from property taxes to income taxes or sales taxes. We have the 7th highest burden. This is according to the Tax Foundation, the 7th highest burden overall for state and local taxes. So we are high. So just shifting taxes around from one form to another doesn't help us in the net. Sure, it might help a given tax homeowner, but it doesn't help the problem. So we have to address the drivers. So with that, I would like to just finish. I don't think at the state level we've acknowledged the problem. Governor Pritzker did mention in his State of the State 2020 speech that he wanted to do something about property taxes, but nothing has happened other than they've continued to go up. Number two, given what I've just shown, we have to reject incrementalism. We can't just do small changes. It doesn't matter. It's a waste of time for everybody, and people will continue to leave. So really what we need to do is address the real issues, which I wish we had time for, and that's pension reform. That's reducing the power of the government unions because they are driving up the costs, and things like reducing the number of government units. So with that, thank you, and happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you guys for addressing these issues.
Thank you for your testimony.